Hello, everybody, and welcome to the regular podcast with me, Kenneth Bach, and Scott Mandelker. And now we've talked about quite a number of intellectual, shall we say, intellectual issues on our podcast. We talked about the I Ching, ETs, and all sorts of other great stuff with a lot about to do with the chakras. And today, perhaps we'd like to talk about something that's more accessible to a broader audience, and that's relationships, actually. Scott, we towards the end of the last podcast, my last conversation with you, we were talking about polyamory, which actually related to my life, and that led us into a discussion which was actually very meaningful. And so maybe today, let's talk a little bit about relationships and, I guess how that relates to the greater cosmic plan.
Sure.
So I guess my first question to you is, what is that dynamic there? I mean, that's a big kind of overall broad question, but how would you characterize the role of relationships with our cosmic evolution?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me back again, and it's nice to be talking with you again.
Absolutely.
Relationship is basically a mirror, and you see, from the view of higher self, all is one, right? The law of one.
Yeah.
And so, in the raw material, they don't say other; they say other self, self and other self, and that view is that self and other are kind of mirror reflections of each other, yet with distinction that's manifesting a single life. The life of the Creator, the life of all creation. All is one. God is one. Meaning that who you meet is actually an element of your greater self.
Yep.
How we relate to others, of course, is based on how we relate inwardly to our mind.
Yep.
So how you relate to yourself determines how you relate to others. Relating to self really means relating to your mind, which really means the conscious mind dealing with that which comes and goes into the conscious mind, that which we're conscious of. Elements of the mind, including sensation, perception, feeling, thought, memory, imagination, fantasy, beliefs, impulses, view, opinion. How we ourselves work with the elements of mind is the basis of how we are with others. And thus, how we are with others is a training in dealing with our mind. And so, the challenge, or the journey and the challenge of relationship in general, which means every single relationship more or less, is some kind of a testing and an experiencing of how well we deal with the elements of our own mind. So, like projection, like psychological defense of projection. Let's say there's the sense that others are judging me. So a lot of people commonly, and it's very normal on Earth, have a low self-esteem, low self-value. Lots of spiritual people and good people are very self-critical or self-blaming. In the psychological defense of projection, then there's some sense that the other is seeing me in a certain way, or they are a certain way, but actually that's an unrecognized aspect of the way we are inwardly towards ourselves, towards the mind. And that kind of projective process is actually done more or less all the time until the person is free of attachment to the elements of mind, right? So second, third chakra blockages in identity, sense of self, And in relationship or society and group life, all play out in relationship, as everybody knows. And so relationship then is an advanced form of testing and training or challenge in being with ourselves. And, the spiritual path traditionally is quite solitary. The monks in Buddhism, in Taoism, in Baha'i, in Sufi, mystics everywhere, Hindu, they go off alone to do their practice.
Yep.
Now, modern people may criticize them and think that that's introversion or avoidance or some kind of psychopathology. It may be. There are demented yogis, for sure. But it may not be. And that's because all the elements of true humanity or a balanced person, which is really love and wisdom, can be developed alone. But they're faster developed in relationship.
Why?
Because it's really very deep. Because there's a concretization or an apparent materialization or embodiment of our inner process by the dynamics of the relationship. So if I think somebody's always blaming me, or I think, the low self-esteem projection, I think others are judging me. I look at them and then I think, hey, what are you looking at? When they're looking at me and I feel blamed or criticized, if that's my filter, obviously then I'll bring that into every relationship more or less. The arising of the conflict in the relationship is an easier way of seeing mind distortions than sitting alone. Sitting alone in its highest form is meditation, or reflection and contemplation on the nature of mind and the nature of self and who we are, what we are. That's much more subtle than dealing with that which arises in relationship. What arises in relationship is their process and ours. Their process is ultimately out of our control, but their process doesn't make our process, meaning we're responsible for our reactions and how we choose to relate to the other person.
Sorry, when you say their process, you mean what's going on in their head versus what's going on in our head, in our mind, right?
Yeah, I used to say in your head, but it's really not the head, it's in your mind.
Right.
Because the mind is more than just the head.
Right.
So, yeah. So, the dynamics of the other are their mind process with us, and then their behavior. The behavior comes from the mind process.
And of course, when you say their mind, you mean the separated mind, because there's so many levels of mind, aren't there?
Well, mind as basically manifestation of mind, body, spirit. The mind that can be engaged with or filled with just body consciousness, like sensation or body desire or body identity, identification, or personal emotion or universal emotion or concrete thought or abstract thought or inspiration or joy and bliss, whatever chakra manifestation of their consciousness is what they're sharing with us. Now, we're sharing likewise with them. It's easier in a way to find the inner blockages by the consequence of their combustion with the other. The consequences of the combustion of our blockages.
Why do you say combustion and not interaction?
Because there's a certain kind of explosive the fact that they manifest. You can say appearance also. Combustion, because there's a certain kind of volatility in the appearance. It's like fire. Some of the ancient philosophers, maybe even Heraclitus, Greek, used to feel that fire is latent in the ether.
Hmm.
And when certain conditions occur, then it appears out of the void.
Okay.
And then when fire is extinguished, it goes back to the void.
Hmm.
Where does fire come from? So there's a certain explosive or the appearance, the manifestation of what occurs in a relationship is some kind of subtle combination of what each brings to the encounter and what they're offering, what they're sharing.
Hmm.
So, but you can say interaction for sure.
Hmm.
Uh, Potentially, it's an excellent mirror for seeing our inner process.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean everybody's using it that way, or we can in any one situation. The problem is that people attribute causation to the other. You made me so angry. You really hurt me.
Hmm.
Uh, when actually it's us that hurt ourselves or us that generated the anger.
Hmm.
Because two people will have very different reaction to the same catalyst,
Sure.
right? Somebody says, I think you're wrong.
Hmm.
And the person can be furious, or the person can be very mellow, genuinely, and wonder, what do you mean? Where do you think I'm wrong?
Hmm.
While another person will feed that into their pre-existing distortions about self-value.
Yep.
So attributing the nature, attribution to the other as the creator of personal mind process is a real mistake.
Hmm.
But potentially in relationship, we can, know the mind better. It's all about self-understanding, right?
Right.
So first you can know yourself, then you can accept yourself.
Hmm.
So that self-knowing is in some ways enhanced by a relationship rather than solitary mind process,
Hmm.
even though it's not necessary. Meaning somebody could do the full weight, the full component of clearing their own distortions alone,
Hmm.
just like Buddha, just like a real yogi does. A real monk does that.
Do
And
you?
they come out very, very well, actually, and very capable of love and compassion and caring,
Sure.
even though there's no relationship with a physical other.
Hmm. Do you think that the uh, well, I'm kind of bringing it to the modern world, and it's almost as if it's you cannot. I mean, you can no longer lead a solitary existence. It feels to me like the world is becoming so interconnected, so full of these. I mean, like the internet, for example. You just can't escape interaction anymore. Would you say that the role of relationships and spiritual growth has that link is well becoming more important? I know, obviously, it's always been the
Well,
same for time
um,
immemorial.
um, you see, to understand the nature of human relationship, we'd also have to understand the nature of Earth and humanity in its soul evolution through the dimensional levels.
Hmm.
And that really means being in late third density on the cusp of harvest or graduation in bidimensional shift into fourth density. So fourth density is associated with fourth chakra,
Hmm.
and that's love, compassion, acceptance, pure receptivity, unconditional receiving, and actually honesty, or all things are revealed in
Hmm.
fourth density, Ross said. And so, on the cusp of this new age, the new civilization of Earth that's forming slowly, the end of this cycle, relationship is actually more important. Number one, to help people graduate.
Hmm.
Again, it depends on, it's a very big topic, and so we have to specify a lot of things. Uh, in For those who are moving into fourth density or those who are living from a spiritual perspective, right relationship is definitely important or essential to graduation.
Hmm.
So it's not that simple because there are wanderers, there are fourth density wanderers who generally don't know that they're fourth density wanderers because they're coming in with love without much wisdom, but they have a very pure heart and they only essentially want the best for all, but they became very distorted here living on Earth in the last 20 or 40 years. And so they have trouble in relationship. Now, so long as they're not actively negative, meaning actively controlling and harming others for power and gain, if they're not actively doing that, then they're just carrying the distortions of inability to relate closely. And they'll still graduate, or they'll still be welcomed into the new world because they're fourth density souls and they're basically positive.
Sure.
On the other hand, for a 3D soul that is insufficiently able to make good relationship, it's likely they won't be able to graduate also. And so when Ra talked about the requirements for harvest into 4D, positive, they said 51% service to other, all right, whatever that means. That means that a little bit more often than not, the person is walking with open heart. The person has a open heart to self and other. But also required is some minimal activation of first, third, and fifth chakras. And third is very much about social, and fifth is very much about communication. So if there are major communication blockages, in and out, meaning inward communication between the conscious mind and the deep mind, and outer, so-called outer communication with self and other, or other self, either route, whether there's inner communication or outer with others, if there's significant blockage there, the person may not be harvestable, or they may not actually make the grade, because that shows a certain quality of fourth chakra or heart blockage too. And so relationship in some ways can be a very fast path to the development of love and wisdom, which is fourth and fifth chakras, if the person has that attitude. Right. And so then they're watching their mind in the relationship too. And when there's some kind of charged dynamic in the relationship, some emotional charge or some issue of conflict or confusion, they pay attention to it and look into it. And the other person may not even be willing to do so, but I can do it myself. How am I feeling? What's wrong? Why am I upset? Yeah. Why are they reacting this way? And why do I react this way? And what do I really need? What do I really want? What's best here? That can be done alone, based on the dynamics of the relationship. So in some ways, relationship is more important now than before. Fourth density is a very group-oriented level of social complex of society, much more than third. You know, in a way, in third density, it's each man or woman, each soul for himself. Some people go positive, some people go negative, some people don't do anything, some very strongly move positive, and some weakly, only somewhat move positive. But the transit of a world from 3 to 4, in some ways, can be understood as the inception or the genesis of right relationship. It's the beginning of true relatedness within the collective of planet Earth.
When you say right relationship, is that used in like the Buddhist sense, right livelihood, right thought, right speech, that kind of thing?
Yeah, in the same sense. And actually in Buddhism, this is the Noble Eightfold Path.
Right.
And there isn't one called right relationship.
Yeah.
But it could be. It would be based on right speech and right livelihood,
do you want to just qualify right for us, because obviously it's not right, a moralistic sense, right?
Yeah, you see, there are two paths. If you want to be an evil fellow, go right ahead. Higher self will help, sort of, and as much as it can, and the evil ones are a manifestation of the infinite creator too. So I don't have any, dogmatic moralism meaning if you want to go on the path without love, go right ahead. But in the context of the positive path, which is tread by 90% of the souls who go out of 3D, according to Ra, meaning 90% of the souls who get out of 3D, which is everybody more or less, will end up on the positive path because it's closer to the mind of the Creator. Because the Creator is not self-destructive and doesn't really enjoy lying and deception. So most everybody will, most everybody on spiritual path throughout the galaxy, in fact, throughout all galaxies with this free will end up on the positive path. So, according to the positive path, right would mean relationship based on principles of the positive path. Acceptance, non-control, non-manipulation, love and wisdom. Authentic, genuine truth and honesty with compassion. The four Brahma Viharas, basically. Brahma Viharas are loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And these are four meditations in Buddhism that are done alone by a monk or somebody who's doing that practice, developing heart chakra, actually, and thus could be done quite isolated from humanity. And those qualities of heart, kindness, compassion for those suffering, sympathetic happiness or joy for those who are happy, I'm happy, you're happy, and equanimity, which is peace with the whole creational flow, those are the basis of right relationship. So, heart and truth. And actually, the fast, it's the fourth, fifth chakra development. That's healing and balance. So right relationship is based on right self-appreciation. Right self-appreciation, right meaning true. Let's just say true. True self-regard, self-appreciation. I know my blockages, I know my distortions, I know my good qualities or my developed qualities. I know where I'm white, I know where I'm black, I know where I'm clear, I know where I'm blocked, or as much as possible. And I'm honest. And thus I'm honest with others. And I'm kindly to myself, and thus I'm kindly to others. That's the basis of right relationship.
What comes to me is almost this. Now, obviously, the shall we say evolution or graduation of a planetary system, combined with let's just put it in a more concrete way. Let's say there are more enlightened people, and the more these enlightened people have relationships with each other and with the people on the planet, then there's almost like would you say there's an exponential increase in the level of love light in a planetary system? And I'm just examining it, with the dynamic of relationships.
Oh, I'm not sure if I understand your question. Do you mean, is there more right, would I consider that there's more right relationship occurring on Earth today?
Well,
or something else?
No, I'm just toying with this idea. Let's take, for example, 2,000 years ago. I guess because the connections between people weren't so easy. I mean, take for example Facebook today, right? I can be connected to 1,000 people very easily, whereas 2,000 years ago it wouldn't be so easy. So what I'm saying is, if you had 10 people who were enlightened 2,000 years ago, and if you had 10 people who were enlightened today, the level in which those 10 people could do their work would obviously be much greater, or the amount of teaching and a love light they could extend would be much greater today.
Yeah, well, relatively so, based on, greater communication media in the world or interconnection by technology. One person can be encountering many more people from distance, at a distance, than ever before. Sure.
Mm.
So now you can send an email or your Facebook comments, and 10,000 people read it.
Mm.
That's quantitatively different than before. The intensity or the quality of the relatedness is different by technology than in person, of course.
Mm.
So there may be a greater quantity. There may not be a greater quality
Sure.
of the degree of touching another person's life.
Mm. Mm. I wanted to ask as well, have you come across any examples of a fourth density society? Or I would like to read about it. How does it look like?
You mean in 3D Earth?
Yeah, I mean, it could be science fiction or, a piece of channel work or,
There's a book called 2150. 2150. It's out of print. It was fiction written in the 70s.
Wow.
Very rare book and very special book. In that book, it's a really strange book, actually, and there is some kind of community that developed after it. The author, I forget, a woman wrote it. And
Is this Don Plim and Thea Plim?
What's that?
Plym. Is that the surname?
Plim, maybe. Are you looking it up now?
Yeah.
Yeah, just look up 2150 book.
Yeah, I found something on Wikipedia. I think this is...
There's a famous... Yeah, that's probably it.
Yeah.
There's a famous line in that book where one teacher says to a man who's basically reincarnated into 2150 or 2079 or something from his day life in the 1970s, New York City or something. And he has this alternate life up there where he has certain challenges and tests that he's got to pass to be able to stay there and not have to stay in the human lifespan of the daytime where he doesn't want to return. And one of the lines is, the measure of a mind's evolution is its ability to accept the unacceptable.
Wow.
And that's a truly fourth density perspective. So that's very high, but it's actually simply fourth density, meaning unconditional acceptance of everything that is, regardless of difficulty. The unacceptable means what we don't want to accept or don't want to live with. The capacity to unconditionally accept even the painful and what seems wretched and despairing, but can only be accepted because we're not on the negative path of control and fight. So in that book, they talked about a society in 2150 where they had full technology to make everything available that they needed, like construction and food and energy, free energy and everything. And it was a somewhat controlled society in that there was a very kind of rigorous curriculum for development from infancy all the way up till the old age, hundreds of years. And it was sort of what happened to the remainder of those on Earth after the nuclear wars. They moved into a completely positive society, and then all they were doing was basically spiritual development and right relationship. And in that book, there's a good example of something close to a fourth density society where everybody is encouraged to be all they can be, to develop themselves fully. And there were teachers, and there are levels, and there are trainings and testings, and lots of free time, and lots of recreation, and very body positive approach to sexuality and exercise and eating and dancing. And yet everything was about spiritual transformation. So in fourth density positive, relationship will be very important. And the society as a whole will be learning unconditional love of itself and each member learning to develop their capacities. So I think that would be a good example of a fourth density society.
Cool.
Something like that.
Yeah, I'll check it out. Do you think there would be money in a fourth density society?
No. There's no need for money when everybody wants everyone to be well. So you see, that could be actually very possible here in the third density society if there was free energy, or if there was simply the attitude of everybody wishing for the best for all. And this world is riddled with negativity, and so we have wrong teaching from day one. And the view that money is necessary, or law, even law is not, human law and government is really not necessary if each person follows an inner law, which is the law of goodness, and true morality, which is that the golden rule. I don't want to hurt you because I don't want you to hurt me. I don't want any hurt. I want everyone well. And we do all we can to make everyone well. If everybody had that attitude, there would be certainly no need for money.
Yeah.
Because very quickly the society would develop its resources, and there would be free energy very quickly developed.
Yeah.
So then there'd be no need to work for money. Work for money to pay for energy.
Yeah.
Which Tesla was all about.
Yeah. Scott, with about 2 weeks to December 21st, any thoughts on that?
Not so much, actually. I mean, I think it'll come and go. And clearly, of course, the galactic alignment of Earth and Sun and galactic center is real. And the energetics of Earth are changing. And the fourth density energy field is crystallizing and firming up. But I don't expect any major change the day after. And I mean, my sense is that dimensional shift will happen at any time, whenever it's ready. And it's, I expect it before the end of 2014, but I thought it would happen sooner, or before the end of this year. But no, and I don't really have that much concern about 2012, December 21. So
cool.
It doesn't mean so much for me.
Cool. Let's come back to the topic, and let's go further into relationships, and obviously the topic of love, romantic relationships comes up. Do you want to just and maybe let's just talk about polyamory as a starting point, because it certainly seems a more organic, a more spiritual, well, for me at least, a more a form of a philosophy that's rooted more in sharing and unselfishness, and non-ownership of relationships. Would you agree with that?
No, because love, free sharing, non-possessiveness, non-control, non-manipulation, non-ownership, it can be developed or manifest in any relationship, whether it's a single pairing or group society. So love is love is love. And whether it manifests alone, or in a dyad, meaning two, or a pair, a couple, or in a group marriage, or in a unified society where everybody is spiritually joined with everyone else, those positive qualities can be present. So I don't think that the arrangement of the number of souls joining is what bears the fruit of true love, or non-controlling, non-possessive, true relationship.
Right.
In fourth density, you see, in higher dimensions, the vibratory conditions of the evolution of each soul is known very clearly. The exact dynamics of each soul's development is known by all. There's no hiding. And also, the pairings are thus excellent. There's true body, mind, spirit compatibility in the coupling or pairing or mating in higher positive dimensions. 4, 5, 6 positive. Some of those groups in 4th, 5th, 6th dimension positive probably do have polyamory, meaning whatever sexual expression they have wouldn't be limited to couples or pairs or dyads, but would be expressed in the group. And because there's a certain kind of there's a kind of stripping away of the moral baggage of body and sexuality that we've been taught wrongly here on Earth. Now, I mean, if you really think about how people are taught in terms of body and sexuality, it's very negative. It's very body negative. It's very disapproving and non-appreciative, and very much mixed in with sin, the views of sin and evil and dirty and pollution.
Yeah.
All religions almost are kind of anti-sexual in some way, or they're controlling it. And common morality is very distorted in terms of sexuality.
Why is that?
Why? It's basically because of the negative Orion influence. Because of negative ET influence, and then negatively oriented humans from the beginning 75,000 years ago, even in Lemuria, but particularly more developed in Atlantis, and then in the last 5,000 years, 6,000 years, humanity has been easily swayed towards the association of sexuality with power aggrandizement. So sexuality, it's like the word fuck, right? Fuck is being a crude word for sex, sexual intercourse. I'm going to fuck you up means I'm going to have sex with you. But in that sense, fuck means kill. Fuck equals hurt. He's fucked up, meaning he's damaged. Don't fuck with me. Don't damage with me or screw around. Why in the world is a word for sex associated with harming? Because that's how sex is thought of. It's thought of as a somewhat violent act.
Yes.
And it is, in a sense, that testosterone, the androgen, is certainly associated with violence, fighting, and sex. And so there is something kind of violent about sex from the male side. I mean, an erection is not a state of peace and quiet. It's not quiet. It's a sort of disturbance. It's actually a first chakra blockage, actually. So the bodhisattva, the real great masters like Nityananda or Gautama, I assume, they have no sexual secrets and they have no sexual need, because there's no blockage, because the energy circling up and down the chakras from the root to the crown and back down the front to the perineum and back up the spine to the crown and back down, it hits no snag at the root.
Interesting.
And they're free of sexual interest. I'm not saying that's me, but they would be free of desire naturally. No repression, no guilt, sin, no morality. Simply freedom from blockage.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So at some level, sexual need is the manifestation of blockage. And sexuality itself, from the male side, represents agitation, disturbance. There is some kind of violence to it, although it doesn't have to be negative, but there is some kind of, that sexual excitation is a disturbed state from, if you look at animals, right? Animals don't have much sexual desire except when it's their time, when they're in heat or it's the cycle, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they can become very aggressive.
Mm.
And same for human. So building on the natural biology in which testosterone and the androgens, the hormones, are associated with violence, fight and flight and fuck, fight, flight, and sex. Building on that biological basis and on the reality that there is chakra blockage associated with sexual interest, meaning sexual desire, does come from blockage, for sure. The negatives then build up an association in which sexuality is understood as another means of power aggrandizement, another technique of service to self.
I see.
And Ra talked about how the service to others aspect of sexuality has been baffled. Baffled, B-A-F-F-L-E-D, is a term used for chakra blockage. Baffling is an interruption of pure transmission of energy along the chakra line. And so, what's that?
How does this relate to the third chakra? Because it feels very much to me that it's third chakra sex versus fourth chakra sex, what we're talking about here. Is that true?
Well, there's the negative use of sexuality, and then there's the positive use of sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
So there's sexuality that's used in the way of service to other. Mm-hmm. Now, it's very little appreciated and understood here. But there was actually a study. Somebody told me about this. I don't know if it's true, but it seems reasonable. They did a study of men who have a lot of sex, and they found that there are two types of personality of men who have a lot of sex. One is dominant, aggressive, and controlling. The second is very friendly and kind.
I like that.
and so one is a negative use, and one is the positive use of sexuality. And so sexuality, can be used on the positive path and used on the negative path. The negative use of sexuality involves top-down, master-slave, true S&M. And that is basically building on second, third chakra blockages. In the system of chakras, Ra talks about first center, which is actually the sexual center. Sexuality is associated with root chakra, not second chakra, first chakra. But the blockages of sexuality are the result of second chakra blockages, which is sense of self, right? So there's the over and the under. There's the excess and the deficiency. So there's the blockage of sexual self-repression, self-sexuality repression, and then there's the blockage of sexual licentiousness. There's a term, I forgot, polysexual. It's not polysexual. There's a term in psychology for it, but I think it's polymorphous perverse. That's what they call it. That's the term, polymorphous perverse. It means like, find me a hole in the dirt, anything I want to have sex with. And actually, there are stories in Buddhism.
That's great.
There are stories in the early Buddhist time. You can look into it. It's very strange. There were guys who came into the Sangha. This is right after the time of the Buddha, or even towards the end of his life, who really shouldn't have been monks. And they had a hard time with the celibacy, understandably, but they really shouldn't have been monks. And they were, it's like they had to make rules like you can't have sex with the food, with food. You can't have sex with a pile of dirt on the floor. Something crazy like that, because people were just insane. Some of the monks were just crazy with desire. So, but the distortions of sexuality are basically the result of second, third chakra blockages, not only third. Second is self-esteem or sense of self, and third is social, group, and interpersonal, per se. Negative sexuality, building on second and third chakra blockages, includes fourth chakra, heart chakra blockage, and creates a situation where one is, I was just listening to my talk about this today from the PDF on sexuality, raw compilation PDF. The top sees itself as master or plunderer, and the bottom, or the submissive, sees itself as an object to be used. So real S&M sexuality is negative sexuality, or the negative use of sexuality, which doesn't seek to unblock second and third and fourth chakra blockages. Those blockages are actually further blocked, or the blockages of second, third, fourth ray, sense of self, interpersonal, and the capacity for love and acceptance. All of those are further blocked by the sexuality in which there's a true SM, master-slave dynamic, power dynamic, or imbalance. And so then, on the other side, you've got the positive use of sexuality, in which there's unconditional acceptance and care and non-control and non-possessiveness, and then the desire for true communication.
Right.
And because sexuality, you see, sexuality is really powerful.
Yeah.
I've noticed. And it's a certain fire. It's you can say it's the life force, but it's a particular energetic that comes from the root chakra, and it thus goes up through all the chakras to the crown, to the extent that the person has done spiritual work, if we're talking on the positive path. To the extent that the person is living in love and wisdom, then their sexuality is based in love and honesty, non-control. And interestingly, Ra said there were 4 qualities that lead to a drop down out of fourth chakra, or out of green ray sexuality. Green ray is the color of fourth chakra.
Yeah.
Those were the desire to possess the other, the desire to be possessed by the other, the fear of being possessed by the other, and the fear of possessing the other. So desire and fear related to possession. I want to possess, or I'm afraid to possess. I want you to possess me, or I'm afraid you will possess me. Meaning desire for control or fear of control. Both ways. Desire to be controlled or to control, fear of being controlled or controlling. And the fear is second chakra blockage, and the desire to control is more of a third chakra blockage. But, second and third are blocked in both cases. But in that case, there's not a green ray transfer. Ra talks about sexual energy transfers on the positive and negative paths. And that's the heart of the use of sexuality on the spiritual path, is green ray and above transfers. And Ra indicates that both partners have to be vibrating green ray or above for that to happen. And it's basically manifest as, a good relationship with healthy sexuality. The problem, what you indicate about, the apparent advantage of polyamory over the monogamy relation that's common here, is that the monogamy relation is normally is assumed to include control and possession and ownership.
Yeah,
it's assumed, and that's not love. So you can't make a loving relationship predicated on ownership, possession, and control. Impossible. And therefore, it's doomed to fail. Now, in higher dimensions, there's no veil in mind, and so there's no confusion about who fits me best. It's clearly seen who fits each best, and they choose that one. Now, it may be that there's a more free sexuality between members of the society, because they don't have the same sin-based overlay, you know, doctrinal sin assumption overlay in their thinking about sex. Because sex is, what is sex, right? It's the sharing of energies by body intimacy. And those energies depend on the quality of the people involved, actually, and what they're able to share. So there's nothing dirty about it, except for the fact, the physical body is not so clean anyway. What's the physical body, right? So it's animal, it's meat, whatever you think of it, but it's not, light and sunlight and perfume, perfume and flowers and sunlight rays and the sounds of beautiful music. That's quite pure, right? The sounds of heavenly music and the perfume, fragrance of flowers and sunbeams. That's not 3D. That's higher dimensions. So in a light body, in 4D positive, there's no view of body as dirty or evil or low or crude or anything.
Yeah.
So there's an appreciation for the body as the vehicle manifestation.
Do you want to talk about Tantra? What do you think? What is the? Is it a good idea to study Tantra if you are looking at sex from a spiritual angle?
Well, I mean, I would never tell people you shouldn't study it. The quality of the teaching is ultimately based in the quality of the teacher, and you may not know that until you study the teaching. But people have to understand that Tantra, there are many people teaching many things these days.
Yeah.
And what the person gives as the weekend workshop and says that's Tantra is not necessarily what it was 1,000 years ago in the Hindu literature. In the end, yes, I think studying Tantra or understanding Tantra, sacred sexuality is very important, definitely. But it depends on what you study. In the end, you only got 7 chakras. You got 7 chakras and a mind-body-spirit complex. What you gonna do with it? Well, if the first chakra is pure earth energy, grounding, pre-consciousness, the anchor of the body, the power source for body embodiment, then that first chakra is not worked upon. That's what Ra understands. Same with 7th chakra. That's our true nature or infinity, infinite awareness. And so God consciousness. It cannot be put into words and is way beyond self. And it's actually beyond unity. So higher self is 6th chakra. Work on 6th chakra is needed. And then the lower centers 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So in the end, whatever system you're studying, the work is the same. Clear 2 and 3, develop 4, 5, and 6. So unfortunately, many systems are over complex, and lots has been lost. In the last few thousand years. But Ra says, begin and end in the Creator, not in technique. And that means understand the principles of evolution, and don't worry so much about technique. So I think that a lot of Tantra is focused, it's like pranayama, breath-related techniques of meditation in Hinduism. They're very technique-oriented. And so there's a focus on the proper ceremony, the proper ritual. And actually, that ain't the deal. The deal is clear your 2nd and 3rd chakra and develop unconditional love and clarity of mind, honesty and knowing. And then you'll move closer to your true nature. And so it's silly to me. People are focused on technique, Tantra technique, when they actually don't understand the 7 chakras.
Yeah.
And they also don't understand that what's really needed is a good relationship. if you make a good relationship, the sexuality will naturally help the relationship and help each of the two in spiritual evolution, which means clearance of 2 and 3 and development of 4, 5, 6. That's all that's needed. 2 and 3 to be cleared, and 4, 5, and 6 to be developed, balanced, and coordinated. That's all that's needed.
What about the first? Why do you say will you not clear the first chakra?
No, because the first chakra, red ray, in Ra's view, sexual transfer, energy transfer is automatic, red to red. And so it's not blocked by consciousness distortion. It's below the sense of self. What's below the sense of self? There's just the body. There's just the energetics of body. It's like second density, right? Second density, the animal kingdom, doesn't have a sense of self. It has a consciousness, but it doesn't have a fully developed sense of self. Likewise, first chakra is considered simply the taproot that draws energetics into the physical body and the energy bodies from the below, related to the earth plane and 3D. And it's not necessary to work on. In my understanding, if you do Tai Chi, Qigong, yoga, dervish dancing, and some kinds of exercise, that will help the first chakra. But in terms of relationship or sense of self, the first chakra to work on is number 2. And that's basically how I feel and think about me. And that's always blocked. Almost everybody has second and third chakra blockages. Almost everyone. And that will come up as conflict in relationship. And it's a matter of how much responsibility each person can take for their own mind. If I want, you see, the problem with relationship is that it's sort of based on distortion. Meaning, why am I in relationship anyway? Well, the body has needs, that's for sure. The body needs, Ra talked about this, and it's clear the body needs shelter and food and rest and water, but the body also needs touch and some sexuality and companionship and relationship. Meanwhile, most of what's happening in the relationship is each person wanting something from the other. I want you to talk to me. I want you to listen to me. I want to make love. I want whatever. And that is ultimately coming out of distortion or chakra blockage. The Buddha doesn't want to have sex with anybody. He's already having sex with all.
I love it.
So a friend of mine used to say, if you want to have sex with all women, you have to become God.
Wow.
And that's very true. If you want to have sex with many, many, you have to become all. Become one with all. Become one. And that's why those guys don't have a chakra blockage and don't need sexuality. Because there's no separate self that feels a need to join because they're already joined. There's no separate sense of a self that needs joining, that experiences incompleteness. There's no sense of insufficiency. There's only the experience of being joined with the one creation. And that's why there's no frustration.
Yeah.
So anyway, Tantra is good to study and it's interesting, but in the end, technique doesn't do it.
Sure.
It's the question of how much each person can be responsible for exploring the depths of their own distortions and taking responsibility for everything that is other than pure service to other. Everything, you see, there are only 2 purposes of relationship. How I can benefit you and how you can benefit me. And to the extent that relationship is based on how you can benefit me, it's selfish and self-serving and based on perpetuating lower chakra blockage. I'm here because you can benefit me, or I want you to benefit me, or I want this or that, or I don't want this or that. That's not really service to other. That's take care of me, give me. And to some extent, that'll lead to further distortion if it's unrecognized. And yet it's normal, right? Mm-hmm. People feel lonely, people feel desire, people feel something or whatever. That's normal. On the other hand, there's sort of an inbuilt limit then to true intimacy. It's very ironic. People come together because they're both selfish, or they both want something from the other that they can't do for themselves. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, they want to develop real love. But real love is not about self-referenced gain. It's other self-focused offering. And so, how many people enter a relationship based on the desire for other self-offering? Nobody, almost. If you're in the mind of other self-offering, you won't get into a relationship, generally, because there's a lot of selfishness on both sides. I'm not excluding myself from anything, but I'm just saying that's where we're coming from. And yet, the purpose of that, or to make a good relationship, would require each person to relinquish the various elements of their selfishness. And that's challenging.
I'd like to bring it to an example, because I guess we've been quite high level. Let's say I'm in a relationship, right, with a girl, and I would like to have sex, and what we've discussed is saying to ask, I want this. You're saying this is a distortion because it's service to self. Is that accurate to say so far?
I want this is just a selfish desire. Mm-hmm. That's not bad. Mm-hmm. Of course not. I mean, everybody has self-oriented desires. Mm-hmm. Self-oriented better than selfish. Self-oriented desire is based on chakra blockage, mm-hmm. for sure. Mm-hmm. That itself may not generate big distortion, but distortion in mind is chakra blockage. Chakra blockage is the energetic dynamic of mind distortion. So they're the same. Lower chakra blockage equals distortion in mind. To the extent that there's a desiring, there's a distortion. There's a blockage, and that is not service to other. It's not exactly service to self, because it's not like you're trying to dominate the other to get for yourself. There may be that, but then not necessarily. So I wouldn't call it service to self, but
it's desire.
It's desire, and it's definitely based on blockage and distortion.
Gotcha. So I guess the thing to do, quote unquote, would be to look at that desire and work on that.
Well, again, there are many paths up the mountain, and I wouldn't say there's one way to handle it always, and I wouldn't say there's even a best way, because in a very finely tuned partnership, where both people are pretty well developed, the one who is less blocked now is happy to offer to the one who's more blocked now. And the one who's more blocked now will become less blocked later, and is happy to offer then to the other to help in their blockage. And so that doesn't mean one has to withdraw and look at my distortion. So that withdrawal and self-reflection is the yogic way, the way of the yogi, the monk, and the solitary practitioner, to look at it and let it be and see through it in the mind. But in relationship, I mean, there's very fine to express your desires by word and deed. But, it's a matter of the depth of the communication. I mean, I always think, if you want a good relationship with someone, in a way, it's not that complicated. You just need total honesty. Not easy, but it's not complicated. It's simple but not easy.
Mm.
Total honesty, total, 100% honesty.
Mm.
My fears, my desires, my hate, my love, my need, my fear, my sorrow, my confusion, all of it.
Mm.
All of it laid on the table, offered in communication to the other, both together. If that's the case, then the other would be happy to help with your distortion. And if it's a very finely tuned pairing, then they'll have similar desires too.
Mm.
They both have similar distortion, and they both realize that good sex is good. Good sex leads to releasing of distortion.
Mm.
Why? Because the energy moves into heart. Because the pairing is on the basis of love or kindness and respect and openness. That allows energy to be drawn up from the root into the heart and the throat, into fourth chakra, fifth chakra, and moving through second and third, helping to release the blockages there.
Mm.
And so then the person would end up with sexuality based on body need rather than mind distortion. And so that's a pure sexuality closer to the animals. And the animals don't have sexuality based on mind distortion. They have sexuality based on body need and the cycles and seasons.
Right.
And so I think in Alice Bailey there was some comment that in the future or harmonious sexuality would be subject to kind of rhythmic control. But it's not, there's some problems with that material, but what they really mean is the cycles of body need, and which are not distortions in mind, but simply the body, the body wants to eat 2 times a day or 3 times a day. The body wants to sleep. That's not a distortion, it's the body need.
Sure.
And so there's the difference.
You talked about and it's interesting because this is new for me. You talk about developing, in terms of your language, you talk about developing the 4, 5, and 6, and then you talk about clearing 2 and 3. So would you ever say developing 2 and 3 or clearing 4, 5, and 6?
No, actually. I mean, there are fourth and fifth and sixth chakra blockages.
Mm-hmm.
And they're cleared by developing 4, 5, and 6. But the second and third chakra blockages are not cleared by developing 2 and 3. They're cleared by developing 4, 5, and 6. So
I'm just asking, why do you use these different terms?
Well, first of all, that's my understanding from the raw material.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, it's my understanding of what those chakras are. What is second and third chakra, and how are they fundamentally or qualitatively different than 4, 5, 6?
Mm.
In my understanding of 2 and 3, first of all, Ra's comment is that the clearance of 2 and 3 is leads to simply a minimal level of energy associated with those chakras, which is like a blockage, but it's sort of a minimal blockage. Whatever is just simply necessary for the maintenance of those chakras, which is strange, which is really the maintenance of the endocrine glands in the lower body, the adrenal and the digestive glands. Mm-hmm. So the endocrine glands are the outpicturing of the 7 chakras. And so there's an endocrine gland for each of the 7. And those that are associated with the lower, which is the sexual organs and the adrenal, kidney gland, and then the digestive, mainly pancreas, or spleen. These the portions of the body, those 3, need simply a sufficient baseline energy in, again, 2 and 3, when Ross seemed to say, with the bulk of the energy free to be spiraling upwards into love, light, and third eye, 4, 5, 6. And so I used to wonder about this too. It seems that there's really no need to develop 2 and 3. 2 and 3 are not, they're not, they're not universal qualities that need development. They are portions of the substructure of mind and body maintenance that simply need sufficient minimal energy to carry on in a stable way. So when, second chakra is very much about self-referentiality. Me. Okay? Some people never get out of me. And most of us are in it more or less. When there is a great development of love, fourth ray, when there's a great development of awareness of the true self, self as one, Ra said, self as a being of infinite worth, sixth chakra development, self as a being of infinite worth, then there's really not, that takes away the need for common self-referentiality, meaning me. There's no need to be focused on the little me when I understand, when there's unconditional love to all the elements of mind, meaning I'm not picking and choosing. I can be angry, I can be loving. I can be kindly, I can be mean. There's anger and there's sensitivity. All these elements in mind are fine. And I'm still a being of infinite worth. And when there's that recognition or that development of fourth and sixth chakra, unconditional acceptance and true self-gratitude, true self-embrace, there's not much needed in the lower center, in the second. There's just not much, you don't really need to do much there. You don't have to keep developing self-referentiality when you see that self is one.
Right.
Same thing with third chakra. Third chakra, you see there are chakra bands. And so there's a band 1, 7, 2, 6, 3, 5, and 4 is in the center. So this chakra band of 2, 6 it very much suggests that the transmutation of the common sense of self, me and my personality, which is second ray blockage, is the development of sixth ray. Self is a being of infinite worth. Now that doesn't mean I'm without distortion. It's talking about worth and value. And that includes unconditional acceptance for my distortions. Now, when those are developed, there's really not much need for self-referencing. Likewise, in third, there's a transmutation of 3 to 5. Third chakra is very much about concrete intellectual mind, logical mind, and social group relations. Interpersonal and group relations mediated by intellect and the common sense of ego. Ra indicated that ego wasn't a substantial agent in the self, that there is no ego, it's just a concept, akin to third chakra blockage. When there's no third chakra blockage, there's no more sense of ego. So personally, I never use the term ego in talking because I know it doesn't exist. So there's no need to use an empty concept. But when third chakra is substantially cleared, one's relations with others are mediated by truth rather than strategic positioning, rather than by comparison or social order or placement. There's mediation by the truth, by living in truth, seeing true, speaking true, knowing true. Third chakra blockage is very much my group against your group, us against them, me against you, or me and you in a power-oriented way. You know, either I'm on top or you're on top, or somebody's in control. That's what third chakra blockage is. And when that's unblocked, one simply lives as an expression of truth. And there's not, you don't think about role. People have asked me, like, how do you like to be thought of? Do you think of yourself as a teacher? Do you think of yourself as a wah-wah, whatever? I don't think of myself as a role. I don't think of myself as a social title. And to me, that's some manifestation of fifth ray development over third ray clearance. So my sense is that second and third, based on what they really are, don't need development, actually, because they're replaced by the higher chakra band correlate.
Can I give
true sense of self and true and appreciation of truth.
Can I give this analogy and get some your feedback on this? It's almost as if I'm thinking of a machine that needs maintenance and oiling, but then this is the second and third chakra clearing or clearing, and then we're talking about development 4, 5, and 6. That's almost like improving the machine or adding parts outside of the machine to enhance it.
Yeah, you can say that the maintenance the maintenance chakras are 1, 2, 3, or 2, 3 under conscious mind. But yeah, the it's basically what's below the diaphragm and what's above the diaphragm. The diaphragm, as a physical organ or physical tissue, muscle in the body, separates the heart, lung, and head from the lower viscera, right? And that is the veil between third density and higher dimensions. That is it. That is the manifestation in the human form of the veil between the third and higher worlds. And so what's below the veil, or what's below the diaphragm, is ultimately like the root or the foundation of a home. And it needs strengthening and support, but that's all. And then the development of high performance, like a machine, if you think of it that way, or Ron talked about the self as a tone poem, T-O-N-E, tone poem, rather than a machine. And they're talking about the vibratory quality.
A tone poem, as in like a poem, like a
poetry poem.
Poetry poem.
Yeah, tone poem.
Wow.
Strange combination of words.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a vibratory haiku. So
wow.
And the idea is that the lower three establishes the scaffolding, or the foundation, the taproot, the basis of the song, of the symphony, of the poem. And its elaboration or glorification is 4, 5, 6.
Sure.
So it's similar to what you said, for sure.
Did Ra ever talk about the Buddha?
No, actually, unfortunately. He talked about something like the Buddha body being the seventh ray body. And that's an understanding that the state of Buddha is basically infinite awareness. And that's associated with seventh chakra or seventh energy field. But that's all. Only that.
Yeah, because I've been really it's not a super big concern of mine, but obviously two very influential figures in my life are Jesus and Buddha, and I guess from your perspective, Buddha transcended the whole thing, whereas Jesus was a fifth density being.
Well, Ross said that Jesus was a late 4D positive wanderer who knew Earth was at the end of its 3D cycle. This Earth was humans were preparing for graduation to the dimension of love, and thus his primary teachings were love-based rather than wisdom-based, although he himself was blending love-wisdom in teaching. But the primary focus of the teaching was to help people open heart, right?
Yeah.
Love thy neighbor, or resist not evil, or the kingdom of heaven is within. So, and the Buddha, on the other hand, I think really was showing the way out of the octave.
Yeah.
Because look at the teachings, right? The teachings of Jesus are basically, love, unconditional love for the community, and also seeing evil clearly and avoiding it. While the teaching of the Buddha is the cessation of the thirst for becoming, the end of the thirst, ending the thirst for becoming anything, becoming loving, becoming wise, becoming one, becoming free. All the becoming is has ended with complete and perfect enlightenment, which is, the Buddha said, destruction of ignorance and freedom from suffering. So the goals were different.
Yeah. What's your take on archangels like Michael, Raphael, and all these guys?
I don't use those terms very much, but there is an angelic kingdom or angelic line of evolution, and they are distinct from the human ET free will choice-based evolution. So human with free will leads to positive, negative, higher dimensional with free will. So that's a provision given or allowed by the creator of the system for souls that are on that path, that have an experience of free will. The angels don't have free will. The angels are a 7-dimensional group, meaning there are 7 dimensions of angels. There are angels that are associated with grass and caterpillars and amoeba. Amoeba have their own angels. They're very small angels, or
so
they're
cute.
just very cute. Amoeba angel.
I love it.
You can market that.
Sea monkey angels, yeah.
Yeah. So every living creature has got its own angelic assistants, and there are second density angels that are associated with natural formations, meaning mountains and trees, of course.
And is this the diva?
Yes, Deva is
Deva.
a lot. Diva is diva different, right? Deva is
Deva. Okay.
Dewa is Sanskrit for shining one or radiant one. And in Buddhism, there are considered 2 higher realms above the human, the Deva and the Asura. Deva means basically positive ET and angelic. The Ashura means fighting, jealous God, angry God, and those are the negative ETs. So it's interesting that Buddhism actually presents the notion of polarized higher dimensional life, but most people don't really get it because they're too busy, dealing with their own psychology. But the Buddha talked about that, and those devas really are positive higher dimensional beings of any type. Yet it's commonly used in the West, the term deva for angel, the deva kingdom, meaning the seven dimensions of angelics. And archangels, in my view, are 6-dimensional angelics. And those Christian names of the archangels, I think that it's a symbolic, vibrational representation. I don't know if there's some angel who says, "My name is Michael. Hello, I'm Gabriel. Hi, I'm Uriel." I really don't think it's like that. But there are angels who are in charge of different departments of evolution, and 6th-density angel or angelics or archangels would be associated with a level of higher self. So higher self is kind of a big guy, and the archangels are too, meaning they're kind of majestic in their power and consciousness, great consciousness. So, of course, based. But the angelics don't have free will. They simply do the work of creation on behalf of the Logos.
Right. So their evolutionary mechanism is service, would you say?
Well, they're reflexively serving the one creator. They create. The angelic work is considered to replicate clear design, clear seeing of design. They see the way things should be, and they help move it towards that. And so they would be working with each tree or blade of grass to help it develop into its fullest form.
Mm.
So they're kind of working from a clear seeing of some level of universal design. Higher angels, archangels would be seeing a whole lot more than second density, brownies and sylphs, right? Angels, devas of the earth or air.
Sure.
Meanwhile, all of them are seeing choicelessly truth of cosmic plan and design and purpose, and assisting manifestation towards that without choice. And so the notion of fallen angels, personally, I don't think that's possible. There is some kind of magical impression that negatives can do onto angelics, but I don't think that that's a very big thing.
Isn't that, sorry, I'm a bit confused now, because you talked about the Ushura and Davic kingdoms,
Right.
and that the Ushuras seem to be negative angels.
No, the Asuras are negative ETs.
Right. But then,
So
okay, sorry, go on.
you have to make a distinction between the choice-based evolution with free will and non-free will-based evolution. So non-free will-based evolution is Devic in the Western sense of the word. So you see, what happened is the Buddhist or Hindu understanding of Deva, or usage of the term Deva, Devic, did not make a distinction between choice-based or free will-based and non-free will-based.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So free will-based higher dimensional life is positive and negative ET. And then the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas and, beyond that. Beyond sixth density, there's no polarity. So there are no negative ETs even in mid-sixth density or above. But positive and negative polarization exists fourth and fifth dimensions and early sixth, up to higher self in middle or late sixth. Beyond that, there's no polarity. All of those on the positive side are either angelic or positive ET. And all of those on the negative side are free will-based negative ET, no angels.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's confusing. It's a matter of how you use the term. But the Buddhist understanding, when they say Deva Ashura, they're really meaning higher dimensional positive and higher dimensional negative, angel or free will, either one.
And just to put it into context here, how does one think about the Davic kingdom in relation, the positive Davic kingdom in relation to the positive free will continuum?
Well, first of all, there are no negative Davic. Okay, Deva equals positive, because when you see the truth, for them, they don't have I'm not an expert on the Deva kingdom, and when I say Deva, I mean angelic or non-free will based. They're only, as far as I can see, they're only positive. They can't be negative because they can't close their eyes. They're only seeing the glory of the Creator and the glory of the one light, and they know their job. So depending on their level, they have a different job. But it's like if you're seeing a glorious sun ray or rainbow, you don't stop seeing it. That's all they see, and so they wouldn't go negative, because it would be shutting down what couldn't be shut down.
Sure.
Not knowing what they cannot not know.
I guess what I'm asking is, would I put them in a diagram, for example? Would I put them, the Davic, on top of the free will continuum, or on the side, or or is that even relevant? Parallel.
Yeah, if you want to see it as like a tuning fork, right? There's a upper, there's a column right and there's a column left. And then if you would add a central column, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very, very much actually like the etheric channels up the back in the Hindu yoga system. So there's a central canal called Sushumna, and then
Yeah.
there are two main nadis or energy lines called Ida and Pingala. Ida and Pingala.
Yeah.
One is considered moon, and one is sun. One is yang, one is yin, one is white, one is black, one is night, one is day. So it's the
Yeah.
primary duality of potential and kinetic, or active, passive, or electrical, magnetic,
Yeah.
male, female. And so there's one of those is positive and one of those negative. That's free will based evolution, third density to 6. And then you have the central channel, Sushumna, which in many ways is the yogic path and the angelic path, which is a funny association. The yogic path, or the adept path, is not the development of good karma. Although good karma, like the Brahma Viharas, is part of the work, the primary work is to see reality now and live in absolute reality, free of ignorance and free of illusion. And that's different than the positive path that goes dimension by dimension. So it's very deep subject, but the angelic path is parallel to free will based evolution from third dimension to 6. It's more aligned with the positive, for sure, because they love the creator and they love helping out. They don't. There's not any choice about it. It's like there's no other option for them, and they wouldn't be interested in another option. They can't be fooled. So there was a guy, Howard Storm. Maybe I said this to you. He had an out of body, or near death, actually. Howard Storm. You can see his write up online. And he's being shown some glory of the central spiritual sun, or the logos, or galactic center, or something, and he's in awe of the beauty and the majesty of the creator and infinity and love light. And he says, I'm such a sinner, I'm such a louse, I don't deserve to see this, you must be making a mistake, meaning to show me all this. And they say, we don't make mistakes. And that's their mind. There's no pride in that whatsoever. None. Zero. Because there's no sense of self. You see, the angelics don't have a separate sense of self. The free will-based folks, positive and negative ET and human, have a sense of self. The angelics don't experience separation in the same way we do. Therefore, they couldn't choose to live outside of truth or reality, the reality of unity. They couldn't. It's not possible. Because there's no... They have no eyelids. They have no eyelids. They can't cover their eyes. They can't stop the genuine experience of what is.
Yeah.
So
when you're talking about the Sushumna, I thought of the staff of Caduceus. Is that how you pronounce it? Caduceus?
It's the same. Exactly the same. That's where they got that from. That Greek symbol came from India. Actually.
The Greeks got it from Indians?
Yes, of course.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, a lot of Greek philosophers 500 years before Yeshua were in India. And there was a lot of interaction. India and Greece, the philosophers, the yogis, had interplay.
Do you think Greek gods were ETs?
No. Well, it's complicated. I mean, I don't know everything, okay? So you ask me these questions like I know everything, but
you do.
I don't. I don't.
It feels like you do. No, I'm kidding, of course. I know you don't.
I think that human mythology or Greek mythology came from multiple sources. In some ways, they were piggybacking on earlier Egyptian and Persian and Babylonian mythologies. Those, and then they were also personifying qualities of human mind. They were personifying aspects of human life.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Now, the earlier mythologies, Babylonian, Egyptian, Babylonian, Persian, Sumerian, I imagine some of them had direct contact with ETs, of course, like Akhenaten and the Sumerians, and I forgot the name of their group. The one. The ET that was this ET group associated with the Sumerians,
Mm-hmm.
Anunnaki, right? So yeah, some of those groups had direct contact also, and then probably established that in their religious system, or personified deities that way.
I thought the Anunnaki were the Orion group. Am I getting that wrong?
No, Orion, yes. Anunnaki is the name given by the Sumerians or Akkadians, as far as I know, to their non-physical outer space contacts. Meaning they came down in ships, or they came down and appeared. Those were negative ETs, as far as I can tell, and therefore they were Orion. But in the
reptilian, to be specific, were they?
As far as I can tell, yeah. I mean, I think that Orion is the Orions that relate to Earth are or the ones that are running the negative order here, are probably reptilian, and they probably had some relationship with the Sumerians, and that was the Anunnaki, and. What they, if you're looking for true spiritual philosophy, don't ask the negatives. So, they just can't stop lying. So, I wouldn't look there for any true spiritual philosophy. But yes, I would imagine that was Orion, and then that also was incorporated into the mythology, which then developed further in Greece. And then they mixed things all up together.
Coming back again to our original topic, just to try and keep it theme based, because I want to label this conversation's relationship and sex. Forgiveness. Could you tell us a little bit about I think Ra did say once that forgiveness is the eraser of karma. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Ra was indicating that forgiveness puts the brakes on karma or dissolves karma. Karma cannot be destroyed, but it can be dissolved further. So first is a comment from the Buddha, or the early Buddhist Theravadan view of karma. The Buddha said this, I believe himself. Karma for the ordinary person is like a teaspoon of salt in a cup of water. Karma for the arhat, the fully enlightened being, is like a teaspoon of salt in the ocean. Now, discounting the fact that there's salt in the ocean, it just means that for the ordinary person, the experience of karma represents the dissolving of some kind of particulate matter, which is salt, in a small portion of water. While for the enlightened, it's the dissolving of the particulate matter, or karma, in an enormous body of water. And so the taste is quite different.
What is the body? What is the water representing?
Consciousness or awareness. It represents basically development of mind, freedom from attachment and ignorance. So the difference between the arhat, or enlightened being, and the ordinary person the fully enlightened person sees through the emptiness of self and sees through the patterns of desire, aversion, and ignorance. They see through, they don't believe in desire and aversion anymore. They don't believe it's real. And they no longer are swayed by desire and aversion. And there's no longer any ignorance as to the nature of mind or self, which is understood as beyond description, but certainly not separative. There's no sense of separate self or personal ego, personal identity. So the awareness of consciousness, self-oriented consciousness, is liberated into universal identity. Now, in that state, the person has a broad mind, not attached to this or that.
Yep.
That kind of broad mind is akin to forgiveness. And so the dissolving of karma in greater awareness or freedom from attachment is comparable to what happens with forgiveness.
Right.
And forgiveness, in my understanding, is not simply a heart-based matter or fourth chakra, but it's actually a blend of love-wisdom that occurs with sixth chakra activation. So that it's something higher than simply love and understanding. It's a synthesis of acceptance and deep knowing. So an example, you have a relationship with somebody and they sleep with your best friend. You can feel angry, which would be normal, and that anger represents desire and aversion. If you to be able to forgive the other and yourself, both actually are needed. Unconditional acceptance and understanding need to be blended both. Meaning, first you'd have to acknowledge the reality, which is that it really happened, and they really lied, or they really felt you were not enough, or and your anger and your hurt are real, or real enough, and you can allow your anger and your hurt, and you understand then also why it happened. There was some benefit, actually, for your partner. Your partner imagined or sought some benefit by sleeping with the other one. And then you would acknowledge, I chose my partner, and therefore I chose to be with the one who betrayed me. And she, the partner, chose me and chose to betray me, or chose to be with another and didn't tell me, and has that need and really did that thing. So I chose the situation, I co-created it. And I accept the full range of my emotional reaction and the other person's, and the reality of why it happened, and how I'm feeling now, and what I'm thinking now about where we go from here. But I don't blame you or hate you for what you did. I understand why you did it. I understand that in some way I'm not enough for you. That's the heavy thing about that kind of infidelity, is the acceptance of the truth that you or one or we are not enough for our partner. That's why they were with another. And that's really painful to the extent that you have low self-value.
Yeah, it's true.
But to the extent that one feels okay or positive about oneself, one can understand that my partner wanted it. If it's good for you, and I'm upset, that's totally my problem.
Yeah.
Now, if you lied to me, then, I have a little more justification for being angry. And also you're at fault because you lied.
Yeah.
Or you broke a promise. But if it's in your best interest, then what's wrong with me to not be happy for you? But you see, who has that view in relationship, right?
Yeah, it's very enlightened.
If you have that view in relationship, you normally are not in relationship.
Oh dear.
Because it's similar to, normally the people who become parents because they don't know how to be parents. That's why they're being parents. That's why
Shit.
they chose to be parents, because they're actually not very careful or capable at being a parent. That's why they're doing it,
Right.
to learn how to do it. They want it. Why do they want it? They don't know why they want it, actually. But from a soul level, the reason they want it, at the conscious mind level, from the soul level, is because they need it. Why? Because they haven't done it very well before. So
Right.
the main body of people who become parents are people who don't know how to be good parents. And the main body of people who are in relationship are people who have blockages within that they haven't seen yet, and are not capable of that kind of unconditional acceptance, which is very painful. I love you, I want you, I need you, and you want someone else. But that's the reality of that person. And so real forgiveness includes forgiveness of self for having co-created the situation and having chosen to be in the relationship with the person. Whatever the person does, if they're in my life, I'm responsible for having them in my life. If you're in my life, I'm responsible for you being in my life somehow. So I'm responsible for having that person in my life who betrayed me. Fine. Okay. And they're responsible for the lie or the betrayal or whatever. Now, the continuum of emotion and the reality of motivation would both be accepted and understood. I feel this and I feel that, and I think this and I think that, and I also understand why I'm in pain, why I'm angry, and why you did it. Why you betrayed me, or why you lied, and why you did it, and what you were seeking, and ... Somewhat, I understand it. Then I don't blame you, I don't hate you, and I forgive you, and I forgive myself. That is a sixth chakra affair, which is the blend of love and wisdom. Not simply, okay, I love you, it's okay. Nothing like that. That's shallow. But real forgiveness is a big deal. And that's why Ra called it the break upon karma, or comparable to dissolving of karma. Because it doesn't lead to further distorted activation. It doesn't lead to further distorted patterns of mind and body. When you get to that position of understanding, based on unconditional acceptance of all these dynamics, my feeling, your feeling, the whole process, the purpose, the motivation, the significance, and the reason that I'm upset and you did that, when all of that is understood and accepted, a person is quiescent again, or back to, is back to harmony. It's painful. That's a distortion too. But there's no further distorted acting upon misunderstanding. There's understanding, and there's acceptance, and something has been complete. You may end the relationship, or whatever, but the distorted reactive process is complete by that effort towards understanding and taking responsibility that culminates in forgiveness. So it's a big deal, forgiveness.
Yeah. It's certainly. I think I've asked you this before, especially in regards to A Course in Miracles, and I think it does make a lot of sense to me that the kind of forgiveness that we're actually talking about here by Ra is something quite profound.
Yes, and so, to compare it or analogize it to the Buddha's understanding of karma as relative dispersion of salt in water, relative degree of dissolving of solid in liquid, or salt in water.
Yeah.
talks about a kind of disarming of further distortion.
Yes.
It's a cutting the roots of further distorted reactivity,
Yeah, it's
and
almost,
that's why it's a big deal.
yeah, it's a lovely analogy. It really reminds me. I mean, it's almost like this capacity for suffering, and not in the sense of I can tolerate the suffering, but I can see that the suffering is I have a higher and greater, more expansive capacity for using this catalyst.
Oh yeah, well, the degree to which, excuse me, one can accept pain and be self-comforting and honest, not only self-comforting but honest in the degree of one's emotional pain, is in some ways the measure of how quickly one will evolve spiritually,
Mm.
because mm, the simple kind of non-qualified nature of lower chakra distortions is pain or suffering, dukkha. Right? The Buddha talked about dukkha. The
Mm-hmm.
result of all desire is suffering or dissatisfactoriness, really.
Mm-hmm.
And we operate by the pleasure-pain principle, and so we avoid pain and we seek pleasure and comfort and avoidance of suffering.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, we suffer all the time. And in each case, we have created our own suffering. Always. Always. No matter what you did or didn't do, I created my own suffering,
Mm.
actually. Because I chose the relationship, or I chose the location, or I chose this planet at this time
Mm-hmm.
to be born into. So I signed up for it.
Yeah.
So the ability to sit, particularly in meditation, you see it very clearly, to sit through the pain of one's distorted views, memories, regrets, frustrations, impatience, loss, the whole litany. But all of those states of distortion are experienced as suffering or pain, actually, psychic pain,
Mm.
and can be transmuted or released by a willingness to very directly sit through that pain,
Mm.
rather than blame one without a complex storyline of self-blame or blaming of another, or self-pity, without action, not getting up and running around to do something, but just sitting through the pain or discomfort or suffering of those distorted patterns of mind. And those who can sit deeply or can sit through all of that, through those storms, are those who will evolve faster.
Mm.
And it's the avoidance of suffering and pain in terms of the pain of truth, the pain in facing truth. It's not, cut your finger and grow fast. It's the pain of the reality of my distorted mind, the suffering and dissatisfactoriness of the distortions in my mind and the situations in my life that I have created.
Mm.
Facing all that truth, those are the forms of painful truth.
Mm.
Facing all that truth with self-love and comfort and compassion and then understanding and then forgiveness is the fast path.
Mm.
And it's the avoidance of all those levels of painful truth that keeps people stuck.
Yeah.
And so people go to an ashram and they sing Happy Kirtan, Ching Dai Dai, Oh Dai Dai, and so, but meanwhile they have all the suffering in their mind,
Mm.
which they don't want to look at because it's much nicer to feel happy in the temple.
Mm.
But the suffering is their problem, and that's what they carry around, and that's what creates trouble in their life and in their mind.
Mm.
And singing a happy song doesn't get rid of it, actually.
Yeah.
But sitting through it with awareness and kindliness to oneself will dissolve it, and that actually is the expansion of the body of water or awareness love-based awareness. Love light,
Yeah.
right? Love light.
Yeah.
The expansion of the inner love light, meaning the awareness that can be with the elements of mind, that expansion through patient endurance, perseverance, acceptance of the suffering cycle of all those elements, that is the dissolving of karma. And that is a six chakra affair, and it's no little matter, because karma is a big deal. Karma cannot be destroyed, but it can be dissolved.
What is karma?
What is karma? Ra talked about karma as entropy, and this is big questions. Karma was one of the things that the Buddha said you shouldn't talk about, because it's one of the right. Karma is one of the several what's called the incomprehensibles. Sorry, these are incomprehensibles. And the other one is cosmology. There were a few. There was cosmology.
Yeah.
Karma, because if you're not a Buddha, you don't know. And if you don't know, you should be quiet and keep practicing. And that's basically their view, his view. If you're not a Buddha, if you haven't achieved full enlightenment, then it doesn't profit you to speculate. And so here we're speculating. But it's okay, because it helps higher chakra development, actually. It's not complete and perfect enlightenment, but speculation can help if you're thinking clearly. So then, karma as entropy means a force towards disorder, disorganization, malorganization, not disorganized patterns of thought and energy. And it's also basically a certain kind of friction or drag on awareness, on actual expression of one's being. So you can say that karma is chakra blockage. Second, third, fourth, fifth, even sixth. I mean, all those chakras are blocked, okay? It's just that you don't need to really activate second and third. They just need to be cleared and allowed with a minimal amount of energy to come through and stay there. So there's a focus on the higher. So, but all those middle five centers, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, 6, all have blockages and distortion. Blockages.
Yep. The
distortions are in mind. All of that is karma too. And so it's basically a blockage of the flow of love light. It's an occlusion in our capacity to see truth. It's limitation in our seeing and in our awareness of anything. It's a filter which covers our perception and our understanding. And it's a certain kind of friction drag that slows down the process of flashing light, meaning, what are you anyway, right? What is body, mind, spirit anyway? Body, mind, spirit is a triadic energy field of love light that has presence, and thus a sense of sentience or identity, which we call self. But it's basically, like a little sun, a radiant love light sun. Karma represents occlusion, or some kind of darkening or blockage of that radiance.
How?
And it's dissolved by further light, basically.
How does one deal with jealousy?
Be jealous.
Be jealous.
Well, the first point is to accept the emotional reaction. So if I'm jealous, I accept I'm jealous. Then I allow my thoughts of jealousy. I hate that. It's so painful. I hate her or the other for doing that. I feel inadequate. I feel angry. I feel hurt. I feel betrayed. I feel insecure, I feel fear, I feel weak, I feel valueless, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then there would be some understanding of why am I feeling all that?
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the focus on why did my partner do that? Or are they really doing something that represents rejection of me?
Mm.
Maybe they may not be. Sometimes we're jealous based on misperception. Sometimes we're jealous based on clear seeing, right? The partner may be flirting, and we're quite sure we really see them flirting, and they say, no, I'm not flirting. What's wrong with you? You think I'm flirting. But they really are. So sometimes they say something and it's wrong, either a lie or deception, or they just don't know themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to actually, in your mind, acknowledge that I think I see clearly, and I think she doesn't see clearly, and I think she's fooling herself, and she doesn't know herself so well.
It's very challenging.
Maybe life is challenging. Welcome to you came to the right place. So, yeah. So I've often say you have to know people better than they know themselves. Of course, because if you just follow words, you'll be caught regularly by misunderstanding. So Lin Chi said, my dear friend Lin Chi, Rinzai, Chinese Buddhist teacher 1,000 years ago, just don't be caught by the deluding views of others. Don't follow the deluding views of others. So in the analysis of that thing, you'd have to acknowledge, is my feeling of jealousy based on clear perception or projection? Is it based on true seeing that that person really is doing something that involves what? Infidelity or rejection of me or seeking intimacy with another or whatever. Mm-hmm. So am I seeing clearly, or is it just my old fear? And then if I am seeing clearly, why is it that my partner is doing this? Why is she doing that? And you have to rely on your own ability to see and know, instead of simply asking and saying, you tell me why you did that. Well, they may not know, or they may know partially, and if you just go on that, then you won't know much either, or also. So then you would understand their motivations based on what they say and on your own intuition, seeing their mind and what seems to be their motivation. Then you would look into the motivation or reasons for your own distorted expression and feeling of jealousy. It's a distortion, of course. It's a chakra blockage, of course. So you take responsibility for it. And that would be then, what's my problem? Well, she lied to me. Okay, why are you upset? She said she wouldn't. Okay, why are you upset? I'm hurt because I thought she loved me enough to be honest. Well, maybe she doesn't. Meaning, maybe she doesn't love you as much as you think she does, which is basically how much you hope she does. Not, your thinking or assessment is based on your hope, not based on clear seeing. So much of what we believe is true is based on hope or imagination, rather than verified clear seeing. So then you would understand, why am I hurt? It's like, I love her and she loves him. That's a real case of jealousy, not just some imagined thing. But, I'm with the partner and she wants him and she doesn't want me. And I take that and then I imagine her having sex with him, and I turn the knife in my stomach and I feel, oh, she's enjoying sex with him, not me. Oh my God, she's doing this and she's doing that with him, not me. Or with him after me. Why does that hurt? What's my problem? Well, obviously it's ownership. It's a breaking of my feeling of ownership or possession, which is a desire to control her, of course. There's also insecurity because I think that it means that I'm not enough for her, which is true. You're not enough for her.
Mm.
What does that mean? Does that mean you're an idiot with no value? No. It just means that you're not enough for her. That's really painful. I thought I was. Well, you are wrong. Live and
Ouch.
learn. Yeah, well, truth hurts. The truth that's productive hurts, because that's the truth that's unseen. The truth that's unseen is the truth that's avoided because it's painful, or we feel it's painful to acknowledge that truth.
Mm.
So I'm not enough for her. And she really enjoyed sex with him. And she wants to be with me too. Okay. Well, maybe I can't take that. So then I'll break up, or I need some space. But her enjoying sex with him, and all the details of that sex, she did this and she did that with him. Oh my God, she did all of that. And I could imagine it in my mind. Oh my God, I'm turning the knife in my stomach. All of that, because I know that feeling, You think of your loved one doing all sorts of lustful acts with another person, another man. Wow, that's awful. But that happened. That's the truth, too. What does it mean? It means that you're not the only one for her. It means you're not enough for her.
Yep.
Does that mean you have some low value? Of course not. Your value is your value, whether she knows it or not, whether she appreciates you or not. The problem is that you lived in fantasy land, which is thinking that you're enough for her, thinking that she's so in love with you that she wouldn't want another, but that's wrong.
Yeah, that's delusion, isn't it?
Sure. That's one of a zillion instances of self-deception.
Yeah.
And so then you'd have to look at the pattern of self-deception. Wow, it seems that I often don't want to see certain things in my life or in relationship. Or, wow, I really do tie my sense of value to others' assessment of me. Wow, I really was feeling good about myself because this beautiful girl said she's my girlfriend, but actually she wanted me as one of many.
Yeah.
But I really felt so good about myself that she would choose me because I don't feel so good about myself anyway. Because actually my basic sense is that I'm no good, or I'm ugly, or I'm stupid, or I'm whatever. And so it goes deeper and deeper, right?
Yeah.
And who can do that alone? It's very difficult. But the truth that leads to liberation is a painful truth. The truths that lead to liberation, or liberation, leads through a full frontal experiencing of painful truth. Because...
Sorry, say that again, please.
Well, I said that liberation, true freeing, liberation, is the result of a full frontal facing of painful truth.
Right.
Right,
facing your fears.
Yeah, facing your fears, facing your rage, facing your wretchedness, facing your self-hate, facing your cowardice, facing your delusions, facing your fantasies that are nothing, that are empty because they're not real. Facing all of that. It's easy, it's easy to face what's comfortable or pleasant or supports us, and it's painful to face what we feel is awful. But therein lies transformation, facing the wretched. And so working with jealousy then, requires that type of introspection, which is what Ra called the discipline of understanding. Now that is a very heavy process, focused on bringing love and light to distortion. Completely different than singing kirtans in the happy sangha, which is lovely, but it doesn't go into the heart of darkness.
Yeah.
And honestly, some facing that heart of darkness or the distortions is really necessary.
Yeah.
And that's how spiritual teachers who get caught do get caught, because they did what's called a spiritual bypass.
Yeah.
They were happy in the higher chakras, while the lower two and three, were not really fully addressed. and they've been carrying deep wounding.
That's a big topic as well.
Sure, sure. So yeah, we can talk about that, but emotional wounding, it to me, the bottom line for everybody's emotional distress on planet Earth is low self-value, low self-esteem, which is really lower second chakra blockage. 2.2 relates to 6.6. Haha.
I really have to look into the chakra bands thing.
Yeah.
Did you send me the link the last time? I must have.
I can send it to you now. And actually, it wouldn't be bad if you even used this image on the YouTube video.
Yeah, cool.
As I said, it's Japanese, but it's mainly image, not text.
Cool.
Okay, you want to end the tape here?
Yeah, I'll just wrap it up here. So, any kind of last things you'd like to mention for the show?
No. I would just say that, your questions are excellent and very deep.
Thank you.
And, this type of dialogue is expressing the discipline of understanding. And it's basically spiritual psychology. A spiritual perspective on personal psychology and the principles of soul evolution. And that's where it's at.
Yeah.
And that's how healing happens. Whether it's a psychological approach or a meditative approach, seeing through it or seeing it through. If you can't see through it, you've got to see it through. If you can't see emptiness by kind of a non... Yeah, do you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, I was saying that the discipline of understanding is ultimately the only way that lower chakra blockages are released. Whether it happens in a meditative, spiritual technique practice format, or by self-psychology, or dialogue, or therapy, or counseling. Because, I was saying that in the end, second and third chakra blockages are always going to be released by some form of the discipline of understanding. The discipline of understanding really is seeing through it or seeing it through. Seeing the emptiness of sensation and thought and emotion and image and the products or the contents of mind. Seeing through it, in this case, means, like in meditation, experiencing some kind of distortion or painful affect feeling in body-mind without producing narrative, without making a long story about it.
Yeah.
Just feeling the pain of your sorrow or loneliness or your fear and your terror or your uncontrollable rage while sitting in meditation or in daily life. It comes up, I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to do anything, and I'm not going to make a story about it. But I'm going to sit through this suffering in body-mind that I do not completely understand. But I'll sit through it and be with it, and because I have faith that it will pass. All things shall pass, sang George. And so that's seeing through it. And then seeing it through is basically this kind of didactic, dialogic discussion, self-analysis, talking about, my emotional process, my feelings, my motivations, the deeper beliefs and misunderstandings, and the basis for mind-body experience and relationships. Both are fine, and spiritual people prefer the first because it's simpler, but they may be avoidant too.
Yeah.
So, and that's the difference between somebody who's done heavy work and somebody who does light work, So a lightweight, he's a lightweight. a lightweight, is a person who basically is working love only. They haven't done the hard work of facing deep pain with understanding that leads to wisdom. And that's the only way, is to sit through the pain of your blockages and mind distortions. And so, in the case of jealousy again, why? It's my problem if I feel profound angst and wretchedness when my beloved has sex with another and enjoys it. It's totally my problem. Why? Why? Well, you'll find that the root goes very deep, and it goes all the way to things like, I'm not happy living on planet Earth, or I don't like living here, or I don't feel any love in society, or I feel totally isolated, or something, whatever, or I never felt love in my life, or something. And it even goes back to past lives, and it even goes back to life in higher dimensions. The contrast between unconditional love, joy in higher dimensions, and life on Earth, physical. So if you trace it way back, you'll keep uncovering deeper levels of your self nature.
Yeah.
And that's seeing it through, and that's very deep work, and then permanent change results. The cup is shattered when sufficient water flows into it. And so in Buddhism, it's called breaking the bucket, the bottom of the bucket. Actually, there's a term. Chinese, these guys are smart. 1,000 years ago. So talking about enlightenment as breaking the bottom of a bucket, the breakthrough at the bottom of the bucket. The bucket is the sense of separate self. And when the bottom is broken through, instead of a bucket, you have a conduit, or a channel, or simply a frame in open space.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. Well, so
Scott, how are you? I'm looking at the diagram.
Yes.
And it's absolutely fascinating. I'd love to talk to you about it, actually. But first I got to take it. Well, first of all, are you okay for time?
No, I have to go.
You have to go.
So,
okay, no worries. We can do this the next time we chat.
Yeah, well, we have over 2 hours, almost 2.5 now. So
Yep.
2:15. So just use this for today,
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
And if you want, next time we can talk about chakra bands and cosmic numerics. And you'll get a lot from this chart, 7D chart there.
Yeah, it looks really interesting.
It's very packed.
Yeah, it's
packed.
Yeah, cool. Scott, thank you so much for being with us again.